inspection activities. The Congress finds that 1. Under this chapter, the United States Arms Control and Disarmament Agency is charged with the formulation and implementation of United States arms control and disarmament policy in a manner which will promote the national security. 2. As defined in this chapter, the terms arms control and disarmament mean, and listen to this, the identification, verification, inspection, limitation, control, reduction, elimination of armed forces and armaments of all kinds under international agreement to establish an effective system of international control. Did you hear that, sheeple? I hope so. Going down to paragraph 5, the on-site inspection agency has additional responsibilities to those specified in paragraph 4, including the monitoring of nuclear tests pursuant to the Threshold Test Ban Treaty and the Peaceful Nuclear Explosions Treaty, and the monitoring of the inspection provisions of such additional arms control agreements as the President may direct. Additional arms control agreements as the President may direct. The personnel of the on-site inspection agency includes civilian technical experts, civilian support personnel, and members of the armed forces. And over here, the United States is currently engaged in multilateral and bilateral negotiations seeking to achieve treaties or agreements to reduce or eliminate various types of military weapons and to make certain reductions in military personnel levels. These negotiations include negotiations for A, reductions in strategic forces, conventional armaments, and military personnel levels. Regimes for monitoring nuclear testing, and C, the complete elimination of chemical weapons. Down on 5, on-site inspection procedures are likely to be an integral part of any future arms control treaty agreement. And that's all I'm going to read on that page. There's lots more. Lots more, folks. I'm just trying to pick out what's pertinent because I still have a huge pile of paperwork here. Okay. And that's about auditing. Over here, Public Law 102-228, H.R. 3807, December 12, 1991, Conventional Forces in Europe Treaty Implementation Act of 1991. An act to amend the Arms Export Control Act to authorize the President, listen to this, folks, an act to amend the Arms Export Control Act to authorize the President to transfer battle tanks, artillery pieces, and armored combat vehicles to member countries of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in conjunction with implementation of the Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe. Acceptance of NATO assistance in meeting certain compliance with the CFE Treaty mandated obligations for destruction of conventional armaments and equipment limited by the CFE Treaty. The United States may utilize services of funds provided by NATO or any NATO CFE country. Section 25 definitions as used in this chapter. The term CFE Treaty means the Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe, signed at Paris, November 19, 1990. The term conventional armaments and equipment limited by the CFE Treaty has the same meaning as the term conventional armaments and equipment limited by the treaty does under paragraph 1J of Article 2 of the CFE Treaty, and 3, the term NATO means the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Findings and Program Authority. A, findings, the Congress finds that Soviet President Gorbachev has requested Western help in dismantling nuclear weapons, and President Bush has proposed United States cooperation on the storage, transportation, dismantling, and destruction of Soviet nuclear weapons. And again, it talks about we're going to do it and we're going to pay for it. And I already read that section, so I won't do it again. Some of these documents, even though they're in different documents under different laws and things, repeat what we've already read. Control and Disarmament Act, Arms Control and Disarmament Agency, authorization of appropriations. And this is $36 million for the year 1990, $37,316,000 for the fiscal year 1991, $44,527,000 for fiscal year 1992, $45,862,000 for fiscal year 1993. And this was approved December the 12th, 1991. Again, so every couple of years, they redo it all again. It's always the same, always leading us closer to a one-world government, always working in concert with the Soviet Union or Russia, as it is now. Conventional Forces in Europe Treaty Implementation Act of 1991. Mr. Paschal. Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 3807 to amend the Arms Export Control Act to authorize the President to transfer battle tanks, artillery pieces, and armored combat vehicles to member countries of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in conjunction with implementation of the Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe. Now bear in mind, folks, that the proposal that is on the table is to allow Russia and other Eastern Bloc nations to join the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance. Later in these documents, we will prove that NATO was formed to hasten, ladies and gentlemen, the formation of the one world government and a UN peacekeeping force. And all of these plans were laid many, many years ago. The act was, in fact, passed. Implementation of the CFE Treaty will involve one of the largest disarmament programs in history. I'm reading from the Congressional Record House, November 19th, 1991, page H10560. Implementation of the CFE Treaty will involve one of the largest disarmament programs in history. The Soviet Union alone will have to destroy the military capacity of many thousands of tanks, artillery, and other pieces of equipment. Furthermore, it will constrain Soviet conventional forces even within the Western Soviet Union. When the treaty is fully implemented, the Soviets will retain in Europe only 35% of the equipment they held in 1983. Moreover, a provision of the treaty known as the sufficiency rule will prevent any nation from creating a conventional force greater than one-third of the total armaments permitted in the area. Do you hear that? Permitted in the area, which means the UN is dictating to us how much armaments are permitted in our area, and we're only allowed to have, well, let me read this. The treaty known as the sufficiency rule will prevent any nation from creating a conventional force greater than one-third of the total armaments permitted in the area. Which means if we're only allowed to have one-third of the total armaments permitted in our area, where are the other two-thirds going to come from, ladies and gentlemen? It says this provision applies to all treaty signatories. I'm going to read this whole paragraph again for you. Implementation of the CFE Treaty will involve one of the largest disarmament programs in history. The Soviet Union alone will have to destroy the military capacity of many thousands of tanks, artillery pieces, and other pieces of equipment. Furthermore, it will constrain Soviet conventional forces even within the Western Soviet Union. When the treaty is fully implemented, and listen to this closely, you must grasp this, you must understand. When the treaty is fully implemented, the Soviets will retain in Europe only 35% of the equipment they held in 1983. Moreover, a provision of the treaty known as the sufficiency rule will prevent any nation, including us folks, from creating a conventional force greater than one-third of the total armaments permitted in the area. This provision applies to all treaty signatories. Ladies and gentlemen, who is going to supply the other two-thirds of the armaments and troops that will be located in our area?